Deepa Bhargava, and she worked for 32 years as an otolaryngologist, a head and neck surgeon, and was a senior faculty member at the University Teaching Hospital in Oman in Middle East. And she's been a lead researcher and has published over 61 research papers, including 7 book chapters and 4 books. Currently, she is dedicating her time to studying epigenetics and nutrigenomics. She'll tell you what that is, because I don't really know, and uncovering the latest information on natural remedies from around the world. In 2014, she released her first book, Medicinal Herbs and Spices, based on scientific evidence and ancient medicine, wisdom, and that was published in, as I said, 2014. In 2017, we can expect 2 more books, one on herbs and spices for a healthy heart, and probiotics for your microbiome. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Deepa Bhargava.
Hi. Now everyone must be hungry by now, I think. So this is all about prevention. You know, we are going into extremes. You heard the paramedics, that was acute medicine. You heard the surgeons, and that was all active medicine. But now we are coming to a very slow part of the book, and it's actually basically the talk in which I'll be talking about herbs and spices and how you could prevent some disease. Now, you would be wondering that I think you'll get a lot of information about this as I go about it. And can we have the next slide? There's a disclaimer, because I don't want to, any advice that's given, you should take the advice of your doctor and be sure that you're not doing any harm. But unfortunately, like before we started, Dr. Bhargav sent me an article in one of the leading journals on herbs and heart disease. So what is happening now, there's so many people are using so many herbal preparations that the doctors themselves are not aware about these side effects or the benefits of these. And when the patients discuss with the doctors, they become uncomfortable. So in fact, the doctors are being urged to learn more about the herbal medicine so that at least they can hold an engaging conversation with their patients. And patients, in fact, know more about the herbs than the doctors. So can we have the next? Okay, I don't think, yeah, it's clear. Now, a bit about the history of medicine in general, because as you know, my passion is combining the ancient wisdom from years with modern medicine and the scientific evidence. So let me tell you something about how medicine evolved as a science. The first medical science and system was Ayurveda, which is more than about 6,000 years old. It was invented in 4000 BC, and this is the Indian system of medicine. It's pretty accurate. In fact, now, later on, I'll just tell you how Ayurveda is. You must have heard of yoga, everyone. So Ayurveda is one science where they combine the mind, body, and spirit. So it's a holistic way of medicine. And to add to it, you add some herbs. So it's a very ancient system, and many of the medicine, so after first came Ayurveda, then we have the traditional Chinese medicine, which it's very popular in China. That also became very popular. And so many systems are there. And then came our scientific system, the allopathic system. Most of the doctors you have met today and seen, they belong to the allopathic system and school of medicine. Now, when allopathic medicine came, it's very superior because of the research which went into, and that's become the mainstream medicine which you are seeing. Now, we cannot undermine the importance of allopathic medicine because it's excellent for acute situations where acute cure is needed or acute management. There's nothing to compare with the mainstream medicine. But when it comes to chronic disease management, I think there are a lot of things, and everyone is agreeing that there are many shortcomings of the mainstream. And like the doctors don't have time, they're all very busy. So these days, a new system is emerging, which is integrative medicine, where you combine many things, many modalities, and it's all about prevention. Disease prevention is very important because That's how you can keep yourself away from the paramedics. You wouldn't want to be, in a situation. So prevention is very important. And self-care is becoming like a focus, because if you look at it, about 80% of the person's medical care is delivered by themselves. So self-care cannot be undermined. And secondly is natural and holistic management, because most of the specialists have become very specialized in their field. So it is a bit haphazard. So of course, you have to have a holistic way of managing. So self-care is the focus. Can we have the next slide? You must have seen now the supplement and natural health product has become a huge industry. You would see all over the town, you can see these stores where they sell so many. So it's a huge industry with so many natural products being available. It's not regulated well, so that's what is a problem. And they say you should consult your doctor, and they should be able to guide you as to how you should use your supplements. That's the herbal supplements. The next slide. Now, what is a herb? A herb and herbal medicine, anything which is plant-based is a herb. And you would be surprised to know about 25% of the modern commercialized sold medicines, they have originated from herbs. And to give you an example, and out of these, there are 60 to 70 drugs which are used by the cardiologist, which have their origins in herbs. It's from the herbs that the modern medicines have been derived. So what happens when they know that certain herb is working? The pharmaceutical industry investigates those herbs. They try to extract what chemical is the one which is giving benefit to the people, and they do it in the labs on mice and all, and then they manufacture the chemical in a lab. So once it's manufactured, it can be patented, and it's patented, then it's huge money for the drug company. So that's how the medicine industry drug industry works. Another interesting thing you may like to know, that 80% of the population in the Indian subcontinent, they use the herbal medicines because firstly they can't afford, and the system over there, it's expensive for them, so they use herbal medications, and basically natural medicine is where they go for. And again, in China, about 30 to 50% of the drugs consumed are basically herbal drugs. The next slide. Another interesting feature, I was doing my research for the book, and that's when I came across that the Nobel Prize for Clinical Medicine was given to Yu, one of the doctors, and she got it because she had discovered from one of the trees, that is sweet worm wood. From that she discovered an anti-malarial which was helping the resistant kind of malaria. So this is in 2015, the Nobel Peace. So you can see that herbs are potent. It's not you can't wash it off. So can we get the next slide? Now coming to protecting your heart. There are some good decisions and poor decisions one can take. Now, as everyone knows, exercise is a good decision. If you do that, everyone knows your heart becomes stronger. But one is exercise. Now, diet, there's a lot of confusion as to diet because a lot of new research, there are a lot of biases of the food industry and a lot of criticisms and all with diet, so I won't go into it. Already Dr. Narini has covered it. Supplements, they have their role to play. And the poor decisions are addictions. And of course, being inactive is another poor decision. All kind of addictions. Now, we have so many addictions. Some addictions are well recognized, like alcohol, cigarettes and all. But food is also a major addiction. And it's not much spoken about. In fact, these days they say sugar addiction is one of the worst and commonest addiction which is there around, which people are not aware and not addressing, and that's also causing a lot of problems. So now you would wonder, what is epigenetics? Now all these good and bad decisions, they affect at the genetic level, they cause problems, and not only they alter the genes, and the genes are, all genes when they are altered, that leads to the disease. That's happening inside the cells. I won't go into the science of it. And nutrigenomics is the science in which the nutraceuticals, like the nutrition which you take, the food and the herbs and all that you consume, they are known to help at a cellular level, and they are being investigated now with the modern science and labs. There's a huge amount of research which is happening, and a lot of research is coming out on the herbal preparations as well. So that's exciting as well. The next. Now, another thing with the new research is on telomeres. You would know one more. I think 2013, the Nobel Prize was given for someone who discovered the telomeres. These are like the caps on the end of the chromosomes. And the length of the telomere predicts the longevity of a person. Like you could have a 75-year-old who has more energy and all than a young 45-year-old. So that is basically due to the telomeres. And they are now, it's a good objective way for scientists to discover what works and what doesn't work. So can we have the next slide? So what's the role of the herbs? The next one. Now, if we can, I think many of you would have heard the story about Digitalis. Now, this is one of the drugs which is used for heart failure. And the discovery of Digitalis drug is credited to Dr. Wu Ting. And this was a physician in UK many years back. And he saw a patient with severe heart failure. And he thought this man is going to die in a few days. At the most, he's going to live for a week. And that man left the hospital against medical advice. And a month later, he found him walking down the market. And when he met him, he was surprised. He said, "How are you alive? What did you do?" So he said, "I went to a witch doctor, and she gave me a concoction which I used, and I'm healthy after that." So he was very interested, and then he went to the witch doctor and said, "Can I have, what medication was it? What did you give this guy? Because he wouldn't have survived, and he has survived." So this lady said she wouldn't give it to him because that's how she was making money. So in fact, she had to be arrested, and they found out from her that what was she giving in that soup. And then it was foxglove. That's the herb which she was boiling in the soup and giving it to patients. And that's how Digitalis was discovered. Next, please. So this way, lots of drugs have been, they originated from the herbs, and they have been in the lab. They have tried to identify. There's so much of research going on turmeric. If you see, so many papers have been published, but they haven't been able to produce the chemical of turmeric in a drug form, because it's known as cercomoids, and there are many of them. So that's why turmeric still has to be taken in the original form. So you can see these are the amount of references. While I was doing the research for my book, I came across a huge amount of literature, and a lot of research has gone. It was eye-opening to see that there's a lot of research on these herbs. And you see ashwagandha was at the top of it, then melatonin, marijuana, garlic, caffeine. So many studies and all have gone into discovering the medicinal properties of these herbs. Next. So this is what ashwagandha looks like. And this is supposed to be one of the very super herbs because it gives a lot. Again, ashwagandha also is a complex. They have not been able to identify the chemicals. So it's not been, no drug has come out of it, but it's still sold as such. The next. So now coming to the specific, because it's a very vast topic, I'll try to keep it brief. Now, if you see the heart healing herbs and spices, we have classified them into 5 groups. There's one group of herbs which help to improve the lipid profile. Now this is very interesting because there are a lot of herbal products which can help in the lipid profile. Unlike, of course we have the cholesterol lowering drugs which are very expensive, but the results are quite encouraging. There's one group of herbs which help in the sugar metabolism. They help improve the sugar metabolism. So they're very useful for people with pre-diabetes, or even diabetics can go in for these. And I was happy to see the Canadian website on the Canadian Diabetic Association. They have a list of these plant-based products which can help in managing the blood sugar and the sugar metabolism. So that was a nice thing to see. Then we have a group of herbs which help strengthening the arteries and the heart muscle. Those that control the heart rhythm. In fact, most of the drugs which control the heart rhythm have their origin in plants, like quinidine and all. Most of them have originated from plants. And then there's another group which is known to lower the blood pressure. The herbs and spices, one area where they have found to be a lot of herbal medication is cardiology. That's where the maximum the herbs are of use, and they're being used as well a lot by patients with cardiac conditions, with heart conditions. The next. Like psyllium, there's so many, the meta-analysis. Psyllium is known to, substantially it can reduce the cholesterol. So there's some people like me, I can't tolerate the statins because of body ache and muscles and my family. So most of us, we resort to herbal things and we keep checking our levels to see how well we are doing with it. So psyllium is one of the products which helps in controlling the cholesterol as well as the blood sugar. The next. And so we have here's a list of herbs and herbal products which help in improving the lipid profile. We have psyllium husk. A lot of research has gone into it, and there's a lot of publications on this. 10 to 12 grams of psyllium husk are recommended. It's a good idea. It can go very well in food. You can mix psyllium husk, and it goes well with flour and baking, and also if you want to increase the fiber, that's one way to have it. But you have to have a lot of water with it, because if you don't have water, the fiber will swell in the intestines and one can have some constipation. So always 2 glasses of water is recommended. Red yeast rice. Now, to give you a background, in India, most of the people who have heart problems and heart conditions, they control their blood cholesterol by psyllium husk, the ones who cannot afford the expensive lipid-lowering medication. And in China, it's the red yeast rice, which is the star. And red yeast rice is also good. It also has a good lipid-lowering level. May not be as strong as the commercially, the latest the lipid lowers, but those are very expensive, but these are good. Now, garlic has a multifocal action. It helps in many ways. It's shown to even reduce the blood pressure, plus it helps in the atherosclerosis, plus it helps in even lowering the lipid profile. So garlic is also something which would be good to consume as a part of your lifestyle. And what we normally recommend, rather than going and buying the supplement, it's better to make it a kind of a lifestyle choice, if you can include it in your life. Because like garlic, they sell these pearls which don't have the smell, because garlic has that offensive smell. Now, the offensive smell in garlic comes from allicin, which is the chemical in garlic. And if that has been removed from the product, so the beneficial effect also is not there. Although you don't have the bad smell of garlic, and the side effect of garlic is the bad smell. That's the one which is giving the health benefits. Then we have ashwagandha, shilajit. These are super herbs. Flax seeds. Now, flaxseed has come a big way, like the recent article which it came out, I think, a month back in one of the journals, cardiology journals. In that flaxseed, the research, there's a big meta-analysis of many studies in which they have shown the benefits of flaxseed. So 30 grams per day of flaxseed is known to help in lowering the cholesterol. Not only lowering the cholesterol, it helps in the blood pressure, it helps in the arterial function, reduces the plaque, makes the arteries more supple. And green tea. Now, we have a lot of ancient wisdom. If you see the Chinese, from ages and centuries, they are resorting to green tea, and they know the benefits. For centuries, they know the benefit of green tea. Similarly, like in India, they know the benefit of garlic and many of these other drugs. So they have been using a lot. Green tea is known to be, again, beneficial. It helps not only by improving the lipid profile, it's an antioxidant as well. So that's why it helps in the atherosclerosis and prevents the hardening of the blood vessels. The next slide, please. Now, flaxseed, to go in detail. It's difficult because flaxseed, how does one incorporate it in life, in your diet? The way to add flaxseed, the best way is to, and it gets rancid. If it's ground, it gets rancid very fast. So you cannot keep it ground for a long time, or you have to store it in the refrigerator. But you can take 30 grams a day of flaxseed. That's one thing if you would like to. It goes very well, as I said, in baking and with flour. And that's one in the breads that you make. It's a good supplement. Then we have this shilajit, which is known as a super herb. There's a lot of research happening on shilajit. What is this? This is fossilized herbs, ancient herbs, which have been crushed in the rock. And when it's crushed, but they've maintained, it's in the rock form. And it maintains the medicinal properties are there. So this is pretty expensive medication, but this is known to elongate the telomeres. The recent research on Shilajit has shown to elongate the telomeres, and that means that it helps in aging. So many of the people, they use a lot of these stars and all, they use a lot of this supplement because it's an expensive supplement as well. Next, please. Now we have a group of herbs which help in improving the sugar metabolism. Out of them, the ones which have been researched and proven is fenugreek. These may not be very as strong as your medication, but these you can easily incorporate in your food. Like you have the khichdi recipe, fenugreek is there in the khichdi. So fenugreek is there, ginseng, ashwagandha. Now ivy gourd and bitter gourd and bottle gourd, these are from the Canadian Diabetic Association website. I got this. And the studies are also mentioned over there. They have done it. In the mice model, bitter gourd has shown to regenerate the beta cells in the pancreas. So if it's happening in mice, it's quite likely that it may be happening in people, but it'll take some time for the research on the human model to come out. So bitter gourd is one of the vegetables. It's very popular with Indian subcontinent people. They use a lot of it. The Chinese also use a lot of bitter gourd. Then comes turmeric. I think turmeric has been very popular. People know a lot about turmeric. Green tea I've spoken about, and flaxseed. So these all these herbs, they help in improving the sugar metabolism. Next, please. Now this is what the bitter gourd looks like. It's very bitter, but in Ayurveda also they say you have to balance your food. The food, if it's sugar, if you eat sugar, you must eat equal amount of something bitter to counteract the sugar. And if you see, we eat so much of sweet things. Where do we eat bitter things? Very few things bitter are there in our diet. But this is there. And then we have this ivy gourd. It's a small gourd. This is also it's very popular in India, and back home we have a lot of this vegetable available. People eat it a lot as a stir-fry vegetable. The next. Then turmeric. Now, turmeric, it was discovered, there was a huge study in which they were studying Alzheimer's disease and the demographics. And what was found that in the Indian subcontinent, there's hardly Alzheimer's. In fact, I remember as a medical student, I never saw a single patient of Alzheimer's. It was that rare in India. But now, of course, with the aging population also in India, we have more Alzheimer's. But the reason when it was researched, it was due to turmeric, because turmeric has shown to remove the plaque. When people have Alzheimer's, as you age, there are certain plaque which gets deposited in the brain and destroys the brain cells. So this turmeric is known to remove the plaque. Besides that, it has many benefits. It has benefits on the arteries, removing plaque, on the sugar metabolism. It's one of the real medicinal herbs. In fact, very ironically, anciently, if you see, for the Indians, for us, it's considered sacred. So every prayer, any function we have, turmeric will be a part of it because of the medicinal value. It's an antiseptic and antiplatelet. Many, many things are there for turmeric. Now turmeric has become very popular as a health food. You can see most of these health food stores and all you go, you will have tea latte and with turmeric and coffee with turmeric. It's coming out. But it's nice to have. It will be good to have about 2 to 3 grams of turmeric in a day as a form of a tea or in your stir fry. It goes well in the eggs. So, and second thing in turmeric, they're selling the supplements which are pretty costly. And in Ayurveda and the old research, and now the new research is also showing, turmeric, if you eat a large amount, is not going to be helpful because the bioavailability of turmeric at the cellular level is very low. Now, only you can have it, the body can only assimilate very tiny amounts of turmeric. So it has to be taken in very low doses and it has to be taken for a long time. In Ayurveda, there are a lot of combinations. They say turmeric with cumin goes very well. You know, they're synergistic. Turmeric with black pepper is very synergistic. So these are the Ayurveda things which have been described in the text. So next slide. Now we have another group of, these are the herbs which strengthen the heart muscle. So people with heart failure, they can benefit from these because there are not many drugs in the mainstream yet which can help the heart muscle. So these are very popular, like ashwagandha is in a big way. Ashwagandha is very much available here. I've seen it in many of the drugstores, everywhere, Shoppers Drug Mart and all, it's available. And we have Shilajit, I've mentioned, hawthorn berries are there, which is heart strengthening. In fact, in yoga, I was just going through the old text. Hawthorn berries have been mentioned to strengthen the heart chakra in the yoga. So that was very interesting to find out. Ginkgo, unfortunately, the new research has shown that it doesn't help much in the heart. It doesn't have much benefit. Then we have the Padma 28 is a combination of 28 herbs which helps the heart. And interestingly, Padma 28 is not made or manufactured in India, it's from Switzerland. This product is a Swiss company, combines all these 28 herbs and it sells it, which is, you can buy it online, and many it's popular for the strengthening the heart and for people with heart conditions and who want to take natural remedies. The next. Now, motherwort is another new medication which can help. The next one, can we go? Yeah, so this helps in the heart rhythm. So we have antiarrhythmic, as I've mentioned. Quinidine comes from cinchona bark. This is the bark of the tree which produces quinidine, and this helps in the heart. And you would know that poison is also, many of these herbs can be poisonous as well. And the mechanism of action of these poisonous herbs is by altering the heart and causing the arrhythmias. Marijuana is one of them. Marijuana, the side effect is it can fasten the heart rate, and a person can have an arrest and arrhythmia, and they can die with overdose. Or some people may be sensitive to marijuana, so they could also have this. Can we have the next? Next slide. That's it? No? Next. Oh yeah, this is, okay, now there's another group which is important. It's, they both looked alike, so I got confused. Yeah, we have, to lower the blood pressure, we have, what would we recommend? What could you take home from the stock? 1 or 2 cloves of raw garlic. Now garlic, if you cook it, unfortunately, it gets, the benefit of the garlic gets less, it gets reduced. So raw garlic is good. In fact, the Mediterranean diet now, I wasn't going to cover much of the diet, but the Mediterranean diet has been researched widely and there's big research which has been published, and that is known to benefit not only in heart disease, for aging, for brain. So that's the best diet one can follow if you want to take in the scientific evidence. And in Mediterranean diet, there's a lot of raw garlic which is used. Probably that's one of the cuisines, they use a lot of raw garlic, and that may be one of the benefits. Not only that, the Mediterranean diet, there's a lot of green vegetables. There's big amount of vegetable that people use, along with the carbs are less, and they have very little meat. Mediterranean people, they eat small amount of meat. And so garlic is one of the things if you could include in your diet. Then to lower the blood pressure, these are the other herbs which can help. Next. So this is what hawthorn berries look like. They are pink, very beautiful berries. And they're known to be poisonous because if they're taken in large amount, because they look attractive, children can eat them, and they can have side effects by this. The next one. Now there's some herbs which can be harmful. And these are being sold freely in most of the stores. So if you have a heart condition, you have to be careful about this list of drugs, because this can lead to side effects which could be dangerous as well. One is kava, then you have ephedra. Kava has been banned in USA, so I don't know whether it's banned in Canada or not. Ephedra, DHE, the human growth hormone. There's a lot of hormone replacement. People are using these hormone injections, and they have a lot of clinics in Canada as well, in our area, where they have these hormone replacement, where they take testosterone and human growth hormone. They could have some side effects. Black cosh is known to have some side effects. Marijuana, I've already told you, could be toxic in levels. And the next. So just to conclude, integrative medicine is the way forward, and it's going to be popular more and more in future. Mainstream doctors also now educating themselves more on the herbal and supplements, because they need to give the advice in their day-to-day practice to people. Gene and telomere research is redefining the practice of medicine. In fact, probiotics, of course it's not a herb, but still probiotics and microbiome research is going to come up in a huge way, because now everything is being blamed on the microbiome. Every disease that one gets, it's the friendly bacteria and the harmful bacteria balance. If it gets disturbed, one ends up having a lot of problems. In obesity research, heart disease, brain conditions, everything, it's the microbiome, intestinal conditions. So microbiome is coming up in a big way. A lot of research is going on into it. And probiotics, in the near future, next 5-6 years, we'll have the good quality evidence, and that should enter the mainstream. Doctors will then start accepting it. But probiotics, there's a lot of ancient wisdom in the use of probiotics because people are using a lot of it. Herbs and spices also help. They have their own role to play. It's not like very as dramatic as having a surgery or having a very heavy drug prescription, but they have a role to play in prevention of disease, especially in the day-to-day life, to lead a healthy lifestyle. So it would be nice to introduce them into your life. And the focus should be on quality, because nowadays organic and versus non-organic, there's a lot of pesticide use on plants and all. So that's another issue and another topic. So one has to prevent themselves from the toxins, because all these toxic pesticides and herbicides and all, they are known to disrupt the genes at the cellular level and cause a lot of problems. So detoxification and all these things are going to be spoken about in future. So any questions?
What is holding back the monitoring and regulation of supplements and herbs? Why can't we get them so that we know what's in a bottle, like we do with medications from the pharmacist?
I really don't know. I don't know it's a double-edged sword, because if they regulate it, the regulation is going to increase the cost. So the supplement is going to cost much more. And the general belief is that anything natural is okay. It's not harmful. So that's one of the reasons. But again, if you want to go for high quality stuff, you'll just have to go to reputable places and buy. I buy my supplements from Costco. Not that I get anything from them, but at least I know the quality of the product may be a little better. Or you go to a certain, I don't think it's a good idea to buy it from small stores or from online places which you are doubtful, because there's a lot of stuff being sold online. And many of them, they just don't have anything, So.
It might cost more, but at least we'd be getting what we're paying for.
No, there's a reluctance to get this industry regulated, and it's been spoken about. It's been written about. There are many people who have been writing about why this is not being regulated, but it's not happened. So, any more questions?
So I have a question, and again, I'm already up here. So turmeric. So you use it in a powder form. You can put it in things. It's still good for you even though it's cooked?
No, it should be cooked actually. That's a good question I may not have mentioned. Turmeric, the potency increases. The curcuminoids in the turmeric, they are extracted when it's boiled. So when it's boiled, then the curcuminoid comes out and it becomes more bioavailable at the cellular level. So that's the reason raw turmeric, which they're selling in capsules, is not that potent. It should be boiled and had. So it's a good idea to have it in tea or cooked food.
So one other question then. So I know in a lot of grocery stores now you can buy that, like you can buy like raw turmeric. It looks like ginger, but it's orange inside. So people run this through juicers and stuff. So is that better for you, or again, it's not boiled, so?
No, that's not that potent. See, the raw turmeric I was looking at, which you buy in the grocery store, is not as potent as the powder. So the best form, if you want to really have the benefit of turmeric, is to buy organic turmeric and have it in the boiled form. And 2 to 3 grams, which is just 1/8 of a teaspoon. Every day, if you could do that, that will protect your heart as well as your brain. More of your brain, heart, and even your pancreas to people who are pre-diabetic.
I get organic turmeric, like in a jar, just like other spices. But would that have been boiled already before it goes into the bottle to have that effect? It's not raw. That's like in most of the
Yeah, you get the
turmeric
powder.
you get.
Yeah, that should be boiled. It should be boiled. Because since I follow the Ayurveda system, and that's how for centuries it's been used. And now even the lab, they had a study which they have published, the bioavailability of turmeric. They found the potency at the cellular level much more when it was used in the cooked form than it was used in the powder form.
From the health food store or the grocery store that it hasn't been cooked already, or just cook it yourself when it's...
You have to cook it yourself. That's
okay.
not cooked. That's just the raw powder.
Oh, okay.
They just dry the turmeric and they powder it. You need to cook it at your home in your food. Like you put in your eggs, scramble eggs. You can make a tea. In your tea, you can add turmeric. Or like how we have it in India, just little bit milk and little turmeric and little honey, and you have it. So you should boil it at home. And it stays for a long time. The turmeric powder, it's very stable for a long time. But once it's boiled, the circumnoids, they come out and they will be available for your cells to absorb. And then it goes and helps at the genetic level. That's what the research has also showed.
Some question about yogurt and how much use the probiotics are in it.
Yeah.
And there's the question about pill or capsule, that sort of.
Yeah.
Could you comment on that?
Yeah, very, very nice question. See, now probiotics for generations and centuries, it's been used in all ancient cultures, whether it's the Chinese, the Indians, the Europeans. And so the best natural probiotic is kefir. You get kefir. And what they say in the liquid form, it's much more beneficial because they are live bacteria. These are the life-friendly bacteria, and these are in the body naturally. Like they have, now the latest, in fact, the big research which has come up is from Bangladesh. They have found that the kids who are raised in Bangladesh have a very rich microbiome. They have many types of friendly bacteria compared to the kids in North America, where they don't have any good bacteria in the intestines. And one of the reasons could be the antibiotic used in the meat and all. There are many theories why is it so. And they found those kids are much more healthier than the North American kids. So probiotic, as you said, it should be natural form and it should be live. The bacteria need to be live. These capsules and all, I wonder how they are being stored. If you buy it from a very reputable, like Whole Foods and all, these are the nice stores where they have a reputation. So hopefully the probiotic would be transported in a refrigerated proper way and you would get the live bacteria. But the recommendation is to use it from natural. Like kefir. Kefir has got some 27 strains of friendly bacteria. In fact, if you were there for Dr. Phil Nerini's talk, when he picks up his asparagus, he eats it raw with the mud, because the mud is for the probiotic. The dirt contains the probiotic. So, he's eating the mud to get the probiotic. He knows that, but probiotic it's better to have it from the natural way. I don't know if this answers your question. Yeah, you can, and the yogurt is a weak probiotic because they have only two strains of friendly bacteria. Whereas kefir, which you get everywhere, I think most of the stores you get kefir, and once you buy the kefir bottle, you can use that to grow your own culture. All you need to do is heat up little milk and keep it warm. It should not be boiling, or boil the milk and let it cool down for some time, and then you add your kefir to it. So you will have a fresh probiotic in 24 hours, you have your own. It tastes also much better. So you can try doing that. All you need to do is just buy the kefir from the store, and you can grow your culture yourself at home and have everyday probiotic. The Bulgarians, in fact, there's a lot of history of probiotic. There was in fact a war kind of fought over the formula on how the kefir, because it increased the longevity of the Bulgarians. And Nobel Prize was given to the person who discovered the probiotic. That was way back. So better to make your own probiotic. Then pickles and all, and you go to these Japanese stores, you have natto, you have so many. In fact, my next book, which will be coming out, that I have put in some recipes and all, how to make your own probiotic at home, because that's the best way to have the probiotic. Because you're sure of the good life culture and many bacteria, and it'll enrich your life as well. Yeah, kefir is different. Yogurt it tastes similar, almost similar. I would say very much similar. Only thing, kefir has got 27 bacteria and yogurt has got 2 bacteria. Just 2. So yogurt is, yep. And the bacteria may not be live, because what happens when you buy yogurt from the store, they're kind of irradiated to kill the bacteria so that it doesn't become sour and it has a longer shelf life. So plain yogurt is not, that may not be probiotic. You need to buy the probiotic yogurt, which says probiotic yogurt. That's where the live cultures are.
Do you know about cinnamon and controlling blood
Yeah.
pressure?
Very good. See, that's very interesting. Even in fact, recently only research has come, and cinnamon I did not include in my talk today because there's not that much research on cinnamon. Cinnamon is known to reduce the blood sugar and help with the sugar metabolism at the cellular level. So if you add cinnamon about 1 to 2 grams to your food, or with something, it will reduce the sugar transport, it blocks it and improves the sugar metabolism as well at the cellular level. It helps the sugar to get metabolized better at the cellular level. So cinnamon is said to be good, and it helps also in the heart, it helps for the heart conditions as well, because whatever happens in if there's an abnormality in the blood sugar, this is known to affect the heart in the long run. Just 1/8 of a teaspoon. So it's a nice idea to have your teas, having people who like to drink tea. It's a good idea to add all these herbs to the tea, there's so many of them. So, yep.
Okay, I have a question. I went to India a few months ago and we went to a spice farm, and they actually told us that cinnamon produces its own insulin. That's why it's good for blood sugar. Is that true?
See, this research has not come, but it's believed. I would believe in the Ayurveda, they believe the beta cells in the pancreas, they die as you age, and people who are more predisposed and they have, who have a predisposition for diabetes, the beta cells which produces insulin starts dying. So cinnamon is known to trigger the beta cells to produce more insulin. So it could be one mechanism of action, but still we are looking at the little high quality research evidence, so I didn't cover it. But cinnamon is good.
Any other questions? Oh, one more. Yes.
Buy the flax seed, keep it in the fridge, and then just grind it like an old coffee grinder. Like, does that work? I don't know if that's really retaining the omega-3 or
No,
what's the
it's
other
excellent. That's the right way to use flaxseed, because if you grind it, even I have seen it gets rancid very soon. So it's a good idea to keep it in the refrigerator, the flax meal, and you can just put it in your soups. It can be added to your curries, soups. It goes very well in bread. I personally like to have my flaxseed in bread because it gives fiber. It has the omega-3, because the balance between omega-3 and omega-6 and 9 is important. Especially people who eat meat and eat a lot of non-veg, you need to have a higher omega-3 to balance your lipid level. So good.
Yeah, and I believe flaxseed is most effective when it's ground. So if you just sprinkle flaxseed on something,
Yeah.
it's not as good. It needs to be ground.
Yeah, when you grind it, the fiber gets, it's more available for. It helps not only fiber, it goes intracellular. It's a soluble fiber. So it goes in the blood, and that fiber is known to reduce the cholesterol because it's a soluble fiber. Unlike psyllium it's not soluble. Yeah, part of it is soluble. So yeah.
Okay, so I promised we'd be out of here on time. So thank you very much, Dr. Deepa Bhargava. Thank you so much. She's around. You can ask her more questions. Not only does she do all this, but she's also an excellent cook. She can cook like any type of cuisine, like down to like Burmese food. So she's very talented. So I'd like to take this opportunity on behalf of everyone here, and I'd like to thank you all. I would like to thank the speakers that came out today. We appreciate you dedicating your time to the community. I'd also like to thank all of those here at Faith United Church who have been instrumental in ensuring that everything ran smoothly today, from the food to the sound. We thank you very much, so let's give it up for them. I'd also like to thank my volunteers from Heart Care. So I have Tina, a student, and Michael here today helping, and my cousin Aditi right here. So thank you to them. I had to do a lot less running around. Thank you. And last but not least, I'd like to thank everyone who came out today to learn and support this event. So without you guys, we'd have no event. So thank you so much for coming. And I know it's been a long day, but hopefully you guys will all go out for lunch today now and celebrate and eat healthy and exercise. That was the moral. If you learned nothing today, just remember, if people are like, oh, what did you learn today? I learned that exercise is good, and I learned that I have to eat healthy. Okay? So that's what you tell everybody, all right? So thank you very much. Thank you for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day.